Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Global Public Seminar in Comparative and International Education. Today's seminar is part of a special series of seminars which we dedicate to the Ukrainian higher education in times of war. This series of 4 webinars are convened by Dr. Yulia Zaychuk, who is in the audience here, and myself. Yulia is from Ivan Franko National University of Lviv in Ukraine. She is currently an academic visitor at the Department of Education at Oxford. I am Maya Changseliani. I am Associate Professor of Comparative and International Education at Oxford. As Russia's military invasion of Ukraine continues, this series offers insights into how Ukrainian universities are managing in these trying circumstances. Throughout this series, we explore how universities continue to offer education and conduct research while keeping the safety of all participants a top priority. Our speakers, representing various Ukrainian universities, share their experiences of living and working in the midst of war. Before introducing our today's speaker, let me attend very briefly to a few administrative points. This webinar, as you might already noticed, is being recorded and will be posted online in due course. Please keep yourself muted throughout the webinar unless you have been invited to speak. If you would like to ask a question or share your comment, please use the chat function and write out the question or comment you wish to ask, at least a brief note that you want to speak. You can write that out at any point during the talk. So when the talk ends, I will invite you one by one in the order that questions and comments come in to ask your question or to share your comments. When I invite you to ask your question or share your comment, please unmute yourself, switch on your video, and please state your name and where you are from. That will help other participants to learn who is speaking. Now let me introduce our speaker, Professor Roman Gladyshevskii. Professor Gladyshevskii is Vice Rector for Research at Ivan Franko National University of Lviv. Professor Gladyshevskii is also Director of the Department of Inorganic Chemistry. As a full member of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine, he has co-authored numerous publications, including 22 monographs. He has worked as professor and researcher at universities abroad, specifically in Switzerland and France. As a person who is in a leadership position at a leading university in Ukraine, Professor Gladyshevskii will offer in his talk unique insights into the realities of continuing to offer higher education and support research during an armed conflict. His talk is titled Adapting the University of Lviv in Time of War. I will now pass on to our speaker.
Thank you, Maya, for your introduction. I will share my screen and start the presentation.
It's visible, thank you.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, last week, Yulia presented an overview of the general situation of the institutes of higher education in Ukraine and the results of a survey of the students' concerns and expectations. I will focus on a particular case, the Ivan Franko University of Lviv. Come back to some of the problems mentioned last week and show what we do here. Many of the examples will be taken from the Department of Inorganic Chemistry, but I want to emphasize that excellent ideas are also proposed in other departments. I will start briefly presenting our city and our university. Then I will focus on some important aspects of the present situation, such as solidarity with the soldiers and victims of the war, safety of the students and the staff, psychological support, efforts to maintain a high level of teaching and research, some anti-Russian measures, and the importance of organizing national and international events. The order reflects more or less the priorities that stood out from the survey presented by Yulia. Lviv is the largest city of Western Ukraine and an important cultural and educational center. The absence of heavy industry and the presence of several higher education institutions contribute to pleasant atmosphere of the city, enhanced by a flavor of coffee and chocolate. To illustrate the complexity of the recent history of the city, I often refer to my own family. My grandmother was born in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, my mother in Poland, I myself in the USSR, and my nephew in Ukraine. The particular feature is that we were all born in the same house. But there is no doubt that Lvivians are happy to be citizens of independent Ukraine. Before the large-scale war in January 2022, Lviv had a population of some 700,000 inhabitants. One of the immediate effects of the brutal Russian invasion was the displacement of a large part of the population from the central eastern parts of the country to the west. And in March 2022, the population of Lviv was estimated to around 2 million. Some of the internally displaced persons later went back to their homes, others continued their route to other places in Ukraine or went abroad. At present, the population is slightly higher than it was 2 years ago, but a large part of the original inhabitants has been replaced. The motto of the city, open to the world, is easy to understand based on the location near the heart of Europe and the cosmopolitan history. The map shows the war situation in Ukraine in January 2024. The regions colored in pink, including Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, are occupied by Russian troops, whereas the green regions have been taken back by the Ukrainian army. You can see that Lviv, located less than 100 kilometers from the Polish border, is at present situated far from the war front. This does, however, not impede that there have been deadly attacks by drones and missiles. The National University of Lviv, named after the Ukrainian writer and statesman Ivan Franko, IFNUL, is one of the oldest higher education institutions in Ukraine since it was founded in 1661 by the Polish King Casimir. It is a classic university, teaching almost all main branches and combining teaching and research. It is accredited to deliver numerous bachelor, master, and philosophical degrees. In 2024, 24,000 students prepare bachelor or master degrees, and nearly 1,000 students target doctor titles. The academic staff amounts to 2,200, relatively stable number that has not been significantly affected by the war. There are 19 faculties subdivided into 143 departments. Apart from medicine and theology, for which special universities exist in the city, all the faculties of a classic university are present. The faculties are listed here according to the number of students, and relative distribution of the students is seen in the circle. No real surprise. The most attractive faculties are economics and law, followed by foreign languages, international relations, and informatics. The preferences and relative distribution of the students among the faculties has not changed since the invasion, but the internal displacements of the population have had consequences on the geographic origin of the students. In 2014, 2/3 of the students who entered IFNUL had graduated from secondary schools in Lviv region, in gray color. Another 21% came from other regions in Western Ukraine, and only 12% from the rest of the country. In 2023, 19% of the students came from the central, southern, or eastern parts of the country. Since in the meantime, the total number of students had increased, it means that the absolute number of students from these regions had doubled. The university is the owner of 50 different buildings. A large number of these are classified as architectural monuments, which limits the possibilities to make transformations. After the massive invasion in February 2022, a large number of premises, hotels, schools, shops, and rooms in private flats all over the city were used to house people fleeing from the east. The university contributed to this effort by offering thousands of accommodations. More than 5,000 places are at present available in student dormitories. In 2023, 1,100 of these were made available for free to students whose parents participate in the war and to internally displaced persons. Additional efforts are, however, necessary since the estimated number of students who need a dormitory place is near 7,000. A large number of students and collaborators contribute to the war effort in different ways. The volunteer centers operate on a permanent basis. Typical activities organized by the student government and the students' union include the production of trench candles and the weaving of camouflage nets. Charity events are periodically organized by the students to collect funds for the armed forces and for the victims of the war. The university cooperates with the Maltese Aid Service, the Red Cross, and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. Several universities have been partly destroyed, and if teaching can be performed in remote mode, scientific research has in many cases become impossible. IFNUL has made available technical equipment and specialized devices to researchers from all over the country. One example is the Laboratory for Materials Science of Intermetallic Compounds. Among the priorities selected by the students participating in the survey presented last week, the most important was safety. Safety of the students and of the people working at the university. Since the invasion in February 2022, on the average, every fifth working day is interrupted by an air raid alert, which often lasts some 2 hours. It may be told to foreign participants that it is impossible to know the destination of a drone or missile, and the alarm is switched on when a flying device crosses the border. This means that the major part of the alerts does not concern Lviv directly, but it is, of course, necessary to strictly follow the rules concerning safety and not to take any risks. The law states that in the event of an air raid alert, lectures and laboratory works must be interrupted so that the students can reach a shelter meeting the criteria defined by the law. Courses in civil defense are organized both for students and staff members. The topics also include protective measures against cyber attacks and information on what to do in case of a radioactive leak at a nuclear power plant. I remind you that at certain moment, the risk of an accident at the Zaporizhzhia power plant, situated near the front line, was considered to be very high. For several weeks in spring 2022, the members of the rectorate, including myself, took turns to stand guard at night so that a decision-making authority would be on site in the event of an attack. Shelters have consequently been installed in all the university buildings, and if null, it has at present a total shelter area of 12,000 square meters, which according to the law can accommodate 12,000 people. The total number of students and collaborators, however, exceeds 24,000. It is thus necessary to give part of the lectures in remote mode. Another solution applied at faculties with large number of students consists in subdividing the students into groups so that the students are never present simultaneously. Some shelters are equipped so that lectures and meetings can go on. We have even organized exams in shelters. The psychological strains to which the students are subjected are enormous. Many of them have family members or friends fighting on the front, and nobody can tell where the next missile will hit or what tomorrow will be like. Almost every week, new photos of former students or colleagues killed on the battlefield are uploaded on the website of the university. The photos on the slide show two former PhD students with whom I was working, who were killed last year defending their country instead of making a career in science. Another of our students was recruited last September, a few months before the date fixed for his thesis defense, and sent to Great Britain for military training. What can be done to relieve the pain and the anxiety of the students, or the trauma of the internally displaced persons who may have experienced dramatic situations? The university has installed a psychological service that, in addition to individual consultations, proposes various activities. But the task is huge. The student associations play an important role, offering an informal setting where the students can share their experiences, fears, and concerns. Except for a short period in spring 2022, IFNUL has remained open and teaching has gone on. We learned how to teach remotely during the pandemic, and the technological tools that were developed during that period are also very useful now. However, exclusively distant teaching is not a long-term solution. Human beings need human interactions, and branches like chemistry require also manual training and laboratory work. During the academic year 2023-2024, all courses during the 3 first years of the bachelor studies are given in presential mode. During the 4th year and during the master studies, the courses are organized in a mixed mode, mainly because enough shelters are not available. An important factor acting against distance learning is the necessity to have access to electricity and the internet. As you know, many of the Russian attacks target power stations, which causes interruptions of the power supply. Last winter, the situation became critical in Lviv, and the schedule limiting the availability of electricity was established. Each square represents an interval of 4 hours. Green means electricity on, red electricity off, white maybe on, maybe off. The city was subdivided into 3 zones, 1 to 3, whose schedules were shifted by 4 hours. This means that if the university building is situated in zone 1 and you live in zone 2, the direct connection becomes a problem. The photo shows that it is also possible to have quasi-rectorate meetings by candlelight. In anticipation of similar problems during this winter, the university has purchased several power supplies that can ensure autonomy for some time. We were, of course, curious to see if remote teaching and other conditions imposed by the war had influenced the level of knowledge of the students. The maximum possible note in the graduation shown in the last column is 5. Our study limited to first-year chemistry students showed that the level has remained stable and even increased, probably because the number of students has decreased and the best students have stayed. IFNUL is a university combining teaching and research. We are very attached to this principle, which we consider contributes in a positive way to the quality of the teaching. Many of the research orientations are the same as in other parts of the world, facing challenges such as energy storage and sustainable development. Information technology occupies an important place thanks to the presence of important IT cluster in Lviv, which propose numerous working places. The war has placed as first priority the development of dual-use materials, that is, materials that have both civil and military applications. In this category, I may mention a project on the development of super hard materials for body armor and a project for the preparation of special bandages. The graph shows the evolution of funding for research during last 10 years. As expected, we know that the total budget here in red dropped sharply in 2022. Since 2019, the state contribution in green has remained relatively constant, whereas the contribution from international grants and private companies have increased. Numerous initiatives and special projects for collaboration with Ukraine have been launched in different countries, and we can see that in 2023, the main part of research, approximately 2/3, was financed by international and private sources. I take the opportunity to thank the international scientific community for this very concrete proof of solidarity with the Ukrainian science and scientists. When it comes to research, the faculties of natural sciences, chemistry, biology, physics are well represented, receiving among them between 67% and 80% of the total amount. We may note that biology is a preferred investment for private companies. As you know, it is not sufficient to maintain existing features, but it is in parallel necessary to develop new ideas and reorient teaching and research to respond to new demands. We are happy to see that also during this difficult period, it was possible to create several new centers and laboratories. One of the modern trends at universities is to encourage and facilitate the creation of startups. This task has a particular significance in Ukraine, where the war will be followed by a period of intense reconstruction. The Innovation Spring in Lviv has become an unmissable meeting, subdivided into several events that include conferences on selected topics, presentations by successful startups, and meetings with potential investors. A scientific park called Innovation and Entrepreneurship was inaugurated a few years ago with the aim to offer a favorable environment to startups. A question related to anti-Russia measures was raised during Yulia's presentation last week. Since the summer of 2022, it is by law forbidden to maintain any kind of collaboration with Russian citizens or participate in scientific or cultural events involving Russians, and sanctions are applied. A case occurred recently where Ukrainian scientists who had published articles with Russian authors had to give back funding for research projects. National and international collaboration is always important, but even more so in war times. We need to feel united within the country, but also appreciate all support we can get from abroad. Education starts with small children and is a lifelong process. IFNUL launched the contest Crystals for school children in 2010, the youngest children, 6 years old, and all elder grow large crystals of imposed substances, whereas the older pupils present simple research projects. The contest was maintained in spite of the pandemic and the Russian invasion, and brought together more than 2,000 young participants from almost all regions of Ukraine in 2023. The mother of a small boy told me that when they had to leave their home hurriedly in 2022, her son insisted on not leaving his crystals behind. It may seem completely irrelevant to grow crystals when the tanks are threatening, but it represents a piece of normal life in a no longer normal world. IFNUL also proposes other activities to secondary school students to arouse their interest in, for example, natural sciences by presenting this in a ludic way. One of the aims is to awaken vocations for university studies and careers. Another important task is to maintain contacts with former students and propose continuing education. The secondary school teachers represent a large group, and yearly conferences are organized to present and discuss different topics in teaching. In this case, chemistry. This spring, we have invited participants from Canada, Italy, Switzerland, and Poland to compare education methods applied in different countries. The 15th edition of the International Conference on Crystal Chemistry of Intermetallic Compounds, which took place last year, was attended by 134 participants from 13 different countries. It is only one example of many international conferences and workshops of different sizes organized at the University of Lviv. It is at present not possible to invite foreign participants to Ukraine because of the danger and difficult communications. And it is also not possible for male Ukrainian scientists between 18 and 60 years old to go abroad. Online or mixed mode conferences offer alternatives that are in general accepted by the foreign participants. The present cycle of conferences organized in collaboration with the University of Oxford is another example. Before concluding, I would like to show a well-known face from Great Britain to you. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson accepted to become one of the ambassadors of IFNUL and gave his acceptance speech at a ceremony in Lviv last autumn. Coincidence or not, on the next day, the university was the target of a major cyber attack. I hope that I have shown you that it is possible to adapt some of the activities of a classic university such as IFNUL to difficult situations like the one Ukraine is facing today. This does in no way mean that these conditions are acceptable. One day, normal life will be back in Ukraine, and this conviction motivates us to resist, keep together, work, and find new solutions. The main mission of a university is to prepare people who will build the society of tomorrow, and the Ivan Franko National University of Lviv do its best to contribute. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Gladyshevskii, for this very informative and thoughtful presentation. We have questions coming in. If it is okay, I will ask the first maybe quick question, use my position as the chair. You have shown really useful statistics for us to have a better idea what's happening at Ivan Franko National University of Lviv, what's happening in Western Ukraine and across the country. My attention was particularly drawn to some of the figures you showed on international support that you have received, and also private support from private individuals, maybe companies that you have received. Can you tell us a little bit more what that means? Does it mean funding to improve safety measures, or is it research funding, or is it funding to move online? What kind of things have you been able to use that kind of non-state support for? If you could tell us briefly, and then I will start inviting people from the audience.
Thank you, Maya, for your question. Certainly, we use support for different means, but all means are around safety places of work, to improve teaching and to improve research. So there are projects, very concrete projects, as I mentioned, about body armor and some others connected with power supplies, with alternative sources of energy, chemical sources of energy. But of course, it's also to make remote studies and also to improve places in shelters, auditoria, and different means. So each project, each funds which we receive, they are completely defined for what we can use them. So, but there are, of course, other means like charity funds, where money are collected, and there are many funds where this money goes.
Thank you very much. I see questions coming in, so let's move on to the participants. Nadia Ivanenko, please come in to ask your question, please.
Hello, thank you, Maya. Thank you so much, Professor Gladyshevskii. I'm a Ukrainian as well, and I'm an academic visitor here at the Department of Education, Oxford University. And thank you for speaking about Ukraine and this, because learning losses and academic losses are really huge in Ukraine, in the sphere of higher education especially. And my question is to bring for the international audience this point about the quality of higher education, which is very important. So do you observe any decline in the quality of higher education in Ukraine, particularly speaking about your university?
Thank you, Nadia. Of course, during that period, we invested a lot in applying different means of teaching. I like to say in such a way that before we teach during this working hours, what we had from approximately 9 o'clock, 8:30 to 14:50 at the university, and then students have their work. Now teaching, and this comes also during the pandemic time. It's 24 hours. So you are always in contact with students, and we have many different consultations and additional work with students. So we also allow students, due to this problems with electricity and with electricity also, that they have individual graphs. And can you imagine that before we were working with a group of students, and now you have more individual work. So certainly for chemistry, it is not changed. But one of the main reasons is you have seen that number of students at the Faculty of Chemistry dropped from 70, which was 10 years ago, to 24, which is now. So in part, it is general tendency in the world that natural sciences are not very, how to say, in a good way, they are not popular. And of course, it's easy now to work with less students than with more students. And probably the students which are now, they are motivated. But it is very important. I think that why the level is not going down, quality of studies, a great motivation. But it cannot last forever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me invite the next question from Liz Shepets-Ilnikova.
Yeah.
Okay, hi. Thank you very much for your very insightful presentation. I'm affiliated with the University of Hong Kong, although from Ukraine, and my work is on Ukraine. And my question is rather technical, I suppose, but that's one of the challenges that you raise is, of course, the issues with power supply and Russian missile attacks that are particularly severe during the winter months. So I'm wondering whether or not that has made an influence on the way your schedule runs in terms of your academic programs, because we've been in Ukraine for a very long time running on this rather Soviet tradition of starting everything on September 1st and then wrapping up for a very long summer break, which of course doesn't really help when your winter months are very cold and you have very limited energy. So have you made any adjustments on that side, or how have you addressed that kind of a challenge? Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for the question. The university has universities have autonomy on that question, so we can choose how to do. And of course, main was heating problems, and from another side, you cannot stop heating completely because tubes will be destroyed, and heating, you need anyhow to heat. And so first thing, when there were these interruptions with electricity, we use also, normally we have 5 days studies during the week, so we use also Saturday for this purposes. So semester at Lviv University is now a little bit longer because we try to keep also practice of the students. So at the beginning, this part was taken away, that we have mainly teaching and practical practice when students go to enterprises or they go to schools to learn how to teach. Now we put it back. So we try to adjust, and at present, we are ready also when electricity will be switched off. We have in the building this energy supply, so we can do it even during winter semester. So this was mainly question for the last year, and of course, I know many universities, they use summer to have additional weeks to complete the program. That is very important, to maintain all program and that all subjects will be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I invite Brooks Newmark, please, to come in? Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for the interesting talk. By way of background, I've spent the first 18 months, I'm a DPhil student here at Oxford, but I dropped out for 18 months and spent my first 18 months of the war in Ukraine. And I had an opportunity while I was there as well to speak at Gladyshevskii and then in Kharkiv and in Odessa. So I met many students there. I guess my first question, I got two questions, is you know, it's been unfortunate because you've not only had 2 years of war, you've had 2 years of COVID before that. And I'm wondering, has there been a decline in the academic ability of students applying to university, given the impact first of COVID and then of the war? So that's effectively 4 years of learning impacted in the sort of applicant pool. That's my first question. And my second question, which I think first, again, COVID changed, had a step change in approach to education, and war again has impacted that, is how have you been able to use technology in a time of war to transform tertiary education?
Thank you, Brooks, for the questions. Certainly, the life is not normal, and teaching, of course, these years which school children and students spend in remote mode, they have influence. So, in fact, at the university, we are trying the first year to in some way to complete the program which is in school. So we often call it 0 year, to in some way to compensate. But it is not normal. It's not normal that young people don't have school years. They don't have the best probably years in the life, student years, and it's not normal. I have seen on the street when the young boys are going, meeting each other on the street and asking, to which class are you going? And he's saying, to the third. Oh, I also. So they, for the first time, they meet on the street after 2 years studies. It's not normal. So in fact, we are discussing a lot, and that is one of the main points that we are making these meetings with school teachers in order to adapt our efforts to make common efforts to solve this problem. So at present, we have, for example, new ways. We have possibilities for pupils from school to come to university and to participate in lectures. Next week, there will be week of the university in Lyceum. Our 40 professors will go and give lessons there. So certainly it is a problem, and our solution probably is solution for this year, but it's not for long term. Concerning technologies, it is like this over the history. Then, when there are very hot periods, the science goes on, and there are many new ideas, and we improved a lot during COVID times with all this. We try to, with all these technologies which are for distance teaching, and this is one of the main targets for our innovation weeks, which are at the university, and we have special courses at the university, not only to how to build startup, but also how to follow it and how to make it successful. And we also have investments there. So we have also some funding and sponsors for such kind of initiatives and student initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have a question here from Christine Watson, who I invite now to share their question. If anyone else has questions or comments, please note that in the chat and I will invite you next. Thank you. Probably we'll have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Thank you.
I read the question by Christine, and
Yes.
yes, student services are at present all working. Even more, we almost finished our transformation to the everything into electronic mode. So before it was necessary to have all papers printed, written by hand, signed by several authorities. Now everything is in electronic way. So diplomas are issued in time. There is no problem, and certificates also students receive. And the library, the university library, I mentioned that university was founded in 1661. So we are 363 years, but our library is more than 400 years old. It's a very old library. And our library is Ukrainian heritage, national heritage, but it is very modern. It's also transformed, and there are many, we have many electronic sources for as students' book, monographies, and one of the improvement of technologies, which also concern previous question, is that we have for every course we try to have, so we will have at the end of the year electronic course. So it's full course with video, with all programs, with questions for student work when they work independently, questions for exams. So we try to have everything in electronic form. Of course, it's slightly different when you read electronic book and when you read a real book. You fell asleep and book falls down, and here it's different. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And perhaps one of the last comments. Can I invite Ihor Katerniak to share their comments?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to go back to this question about quality of education here in Ukraine. Probably, if case to compare to some standard, probably we can find some challenging indicator for reason. But I remember when Russia war of aggression against Ukraine just started in February 24, I received so many telephone calls from different academicians from United States, from UK, for example, from Kiel Business School, from Sweden, and everyone just say, how I can help. It was like, I don't know, we say just close the sky, but they said, okay, but how I can help? And after that, we start this innovation sprint. And we decide, because not only teacher would like to make mission how we can help, but same students say, how I can help? They see in the train station many pets, because many family left Ukraine and left their pets in the train station. And students say, how I can help? It was never before. Or, for example, some boys stay in Ukraine, but his girls left Ukraine with mom. What he can do to continue to stay in connection with their partners? And I understood this academia is changed because they not just came to study and receive diploma, they are studied to change a society outside of university. It was never before. And when we start such innovation sprint, we can connect the best teacher from what they say, from best university, from United States, from United Kingdom, from Sweden, from Germany. We can unite investor in university. We can unite students who would like to do something because they say, job to be done, we need somebody needs such job to be done, how we can help. And this innovation sprint, it was like 100 different projects, which was carried by students together with these people outside Ukraine. As they found joint interest, it was never before, because they found joint interest to find some small answer for this question, how I can help. And this innovation sprint united right now not only students. This year we unite students from Lviv University and Wisconsin University. It was an unusual event when two students together, American students who are more, I can say, more professional in the business management, and Ukrainian students, I understood they very well in product development. They're not very good as business management, but in product development, that's much, much better than the American students. It was for me really discovering, but they are together, same. They have forum, we are united for future, and same using just internet, Zoom, Teams, no any big investment. It is my main message to you, such war, I'm sorry, but bring some resilience and willingness to everyone to do something to change the situation, to help people, to create some, say, social entrepreneurial results, to promote culture, to celebrate culture. It is, I think it was never. And right now, I can say, in case you ask me about quality of education, I can say this is new things which grow quality up because people would like to be connected to society, which never before, I can say. Because before it was like connected to diploma, not to society. Right now, they are not care about diploma. They care how they can change something here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Igor. I completely agree with you that in addition to high motivation, priorities has been changed, and priorities in particular for young people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, both. This was a very important comment at the end. Thank you for sharing it with us. It was great to host you today, Professor Gladyshevskii. Thank you for finding time and preparing this presentation to share this informative insights from your experiences. We will have 2 more talks within this series. Professor Olena Lokshina will speak next week, and the 4th talk will have Professor Oksana Bodnar as the speaker. Please sign up for those talks if you have not done so already. The talks will happen next week on the 7th of February and then on the 14th of February at 3 o'clock UK time. Thank you everyone for joining and staying till the end. It's wonderful to have you here, to have these conversations, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Goodbye for now.